to the RunRX Podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome back to the RunRX Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie, and we're having a conversation around all things running and the mental stumbling blocks we get into. And the first question, Valerie, was a really good one, and it came from one of our members about basically their heart rate was getting up, and they wanted to know, how do I build endurance when my heart is racing? So how do I get past that?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a challenge for everybody. So running itself, it's hard, and your heart rate's going to go up. And especially what we find is when people come into us, that really a lot of us kind of find like a comfort zone to stay in, or as soon as my heart rate goes up, I stop and walk.
Right.
And so her challenge was, if my heart rate's going up, so I'm struggling, I can't breathe, I feel like I'm just, not going to make it. So I just keep stopping, So then she's like, is it my endurance? I want to say to people, it's not endurance, because most of us could keep moving. Let's say you're out walking and your heart rate goes up and you stop running, right? Or you're running, your heart rate goes up. So you think, all right, I'm not going to run for a minute. Most people just start walking. So if it was an endurance thing, to me, that would mean you'd have to literally stop moving. I cannot move further. So, one of the things that we teach people, especially in the beginning, in the immersion, in the beginning of the practice, is there is a cardiovascular component to running. And I think a lot of people miss out on it because they're running with so much muscle effort, right? So fatigue becomes more like my legs are tired. And so walking becomes a norm, but also when the heart rate goes up, what are you doing in that to respond to that? Right. And so for us guys, and this works for everybody, especially when you're first starting to go with a new movement, and you'll do things like, I'm sure we've all done this, I'm just going to run to that tree. And then you run to that tree, and maybe your heart rate's up, but you ran to that tree and you got there, and then you take a minute, you recover, and then you can go again to the next tree. That's how you build endurance. You build endurance by actually allowing the heart rate to go up. And then you have to challenge yourself. Okay, my heart rate's up. Start breathing more, right? Exhale, release extra tension. But also, because you're learning how to move, we help you see that a lot of your heart rate going up is in your mind as well as your movement.
That's the perfect segue to the thought I was going to ask you about, because you said it on, you were talking on Instagram Live last week about that when you run up a hill, that Dr. Romanoff would have somebody close their eyes and somebody else help them up the hill as they ran up the hill, right? So they didn't know when the hill was coming. And so they'd get to the top of the hill and their heart rate never went up because their eyes were shut. They didn't know. So because their mind their mind didn't know they were running up a hill, their body didn't have that reaction. The heart rate didn't go up. So there's so much about our thoughts about it. Oh, there's a hill. Oh, my heart rate's going up, I'm going to die, right? It's so much about our thoughts that we can affect our heart rate by saying, you're okay, you're cool, loosen up, don't tighten up, don't tense up, right? You can, like you said, stop, check in, just follow the thoughts, and then go on again, right? That if you're go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. And the challenge, so real quick with that study, they took athletes and they took elite athletes because they wanted to really see difference, and they took regular people as well. But the idea was, the idea of the eyes closed was you're taking away, the sight. They couldn't see the hill. So, and just to be fair, your heart rate will increase if you go up a steep hill or you try to run with an increased fall or increased speed. So it's okay. What we're saying, it's okay if the heart rate goes up. The challenge becomes, what is your response? Not your body response, your mind response. So what the difference was the heart rate went up significantly less as the person didn't realize they were going up the hill. So one of the things again, the person, then this is important too, because we're teaching you the movement and the action of running, right? How to run. So we're telling you what to do when you run up the hills, pull your foot. So all of a sudden the person is focused simply on pulling the foot rather than how high, rather than where, rather than there's no reaching because you can't see. So you have one direction to pull. So all of a sudden, all of your focus is only on your action. Their heart rates barely went up. I mean, it was significantly less.
Wow.
And that was the exciting thing was, and this is for everyone, is that when you're actually focused on the job, like what you're supposed to be doing, right? Everything else will actually relax because you're only focused on. And so many of us, just like you're saying, we see the hill, we know it's coming. Even, all these races, like the hills become already like, I'm already nervous.
Right. Well, Heartbreak Hill is, is famous in Boston. A lot of these, I think, I can't remember which one it was I think it's Seattle that is like a huge hill up and down, it's like an enormous hill. There's some of them are just known for that. Right. And I think that's really powerful to say that, what if you didn't even know it was a hill? What if like, I've loved the question you've asked people, like if an alien came down and asked, what is running? Like, how would you describe it? Right. So how would you describe a hill? Right.
Well, I think right. And the challenge too, is that and respect that, like, yeah, a steep hill, of course it's going to be a challenge. It's a steep hill, either way. So instead of having the anxiety that the hill is coming, it's more, how am I going to take that hill on? Well, if it's really steep uphill, I'm going to really make sure to try to use as much gravity as I can to my advantage and pull as low as I can. That way you do save your energy going up the hill. And then if it's a really steep downhill, you got to think, all right, I'm going to maybe bend my knees a little bit more. So then you have like rational thoughts that you can control and do.
Right.
And it becomes like, what's fun is it becomes auto corrections, guys. I mean, in the beginning, it sounds like, what are you thinking, your whole movement? Only in the beginning, but then all of a sudden when you're running, it's like auto adjust, like, oh, it's a hill. So instead of like, your body goes, okay, it's a hill. So I'm going to like, adjust to the hill. It's really cool how you can kind of change that thought.
So that being said, back to the building of endurance, you're saying that if I go out and maybe it's a hotter day than I expected, or it's not a hot day, but my heart rate, I'm just not feeling it. You're saying just stop and reset, not necessarily walk, but stop and reset and then go again.
Yeah. And adjust your angle of fall. So guys, what most people have a challenge with, and the reason they have a hard time holding their running, especially in the beginning, is most people just try to run too fast. They just try to overdo what they can. So what I hear, like in common culture, what I keep hearing is people telling people to run in a certain zone or run in a certain heart rate. And we're here to tell you, please instead start learning how to run at a fall angle you can hold. However, in order to do that, you've got to play with falling. So we tell people for like 3 weeks, don't run, just fall and see how far you get, and then stop, reset, and then fall again and see how far you get. What happens is you learn how to control fall, and that's running. So in order to learn how to run, I've got to tell my whole body, here's what we're doing. So yeah, your heart rate will go up, all that. But as you keep repeating it, you're also learning how to control it and then how to breathe, because we do all of that. And you'll start to realize, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm falling. I just need to exhale. I need to start letting everything else go. It's really cool, but you do have to learn how to let the heart rate go up and be okay with that. Nothing's going to happen. If you need to stop, stop. And the more you do that, then all of a sudden your heart rate goes up and you just start breathing more. And then maybe you bring your fall back, and then maybe you pull a little bit lower, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can hold this. But in order to get there, it's okay to let that heart rate go up.
Well, that's a great place to end the podcast today. Guys, if you're looking for more information on RunRX, you can check us out at runrx.fit. That's RunRX, RunRX.fit. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and send them to support@runrx.fit, and we'll answer them on the podcast. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX Podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.